Homeowners have many reasons for selling their homes, and divorce is one of those reasons. Real estate expert Linda Craft is here with advice for homeowners, so I'm sure this is a very challenging sale for you.
You know, anytime someone sells a home, it's stressful, but whenever you're going through a divorce, it's the second most stressful life event that anyone's ever going to have to experience. And if there's children involved, it's even more complicated. And so many people make costly mistakes because their heart is broken and they're dealing with their emotions,
right,
and they just move too fast and don't get enough information.
Okay, a calm head and experienced realtor can be a great asset in a divorce. So what are some of the first things that a home seller should do?
Yeah, so the first thing we want to look at is if they have a mortgage, who's on the mortgage? Is it joint or is it individual? Because that may fast forward some easy options for each of them. And then call your mortgage company and get your exact payoff. A lot of people look at their mortgage statement, they see their mortgage balance, but that's not your payoff. And we really need to know how much debt do we have and what are we working with real numbers. Okay. And then sit down with me or someone on my team and let's do a market analysis to learn what you can really sell your home for and what it's going to cost to sell and some of the expenses that most people don't plan on.
Okay, if the market analysis shows there is equity, what are the options?
Well, that's good when that happens,
yes,
first of all. That's a good thing. Equity means money to divide.
Yes.
So they basically have two options. One is to sell their home and divide the proceeds, and obviously when that happens, that marital debt has been resolved and they're no longer attached to it. The other is that they can buy each other out. And that's that's great. If someone can afford to stay in the home as a single person, nothing wrong with buying each other out. You just want to make sure that you get an accurate number to work from, because there's a lot of mistakes even with the buyout. They look at the value versus, and they do some simple division. You also have to be able to qualify for a new mortgage to buy the other person out, because obviously you're going to eliminate the first mortgage, have a new deed, there's some steps, and there's some expense for that refinance buyout.
Okay, so how does a couple decide on the buyout price?
Very good question. Most of the time, they'll have an appraisal done.
Okay.
And sometimes they'll also talk to a real estate agent. I recommend they do both, because the appraiser is looking at historic data that have sold and closed. The real estate agent is going to look at what is your home worth today, and what are the costs for selling, and the carrying costs, and the prepping costs to get it ready to go on the market, and what might you face with a home inspection and repair. So there's more expenses than what a lot of people really consider.
Okay, you mentioned equity. That's a good thing. That means there's some money there, but what if there is no equity?
And sometimes that happens too. People just have too much debt. So with that, they basically have two choices. One is they can do a short sale, which the divorce is a qualifier, and that's where you get the bank to take the loss so you don't have to write a check. And the other is that you can consider holding on to the home and renting it as an investment property. But of course, then you would be entering into a business arrangement with someone that you're trying to separate, and there's a lot of problems that can occur with that. But that is an option. Okay,
speaking of problems, your blog mentions 7 common mistakes that people make when they're going through this process. What are some of those?
Yeah, so one of them is the wife or one of the spouses, they just want to hang on to the house because they don't want to move the children. They don't want that change. And in trying to keep the children from having one more change, they end up in a very stressful financial situation. And the reality is children bounce back from change a lot better than we do. Yeah. And so that's one. The other one that I see commonly is that both parents decide they want to keep the house and with the children all in one, and they decide to share the payment. And so one spouse mails the check every month, assuming that the other spouse is making the payments, only to come home one day and find a foreclosure notice on the door because they spent the money on something else. And so there's many things that can go wrong with that plan. I definitely have some advice and detail on that one if you go that route. And the other is a future problem. Sometimes they do a buyout and they don't have a home inspection, or they don't consider things within the home that's going to cost them more in the future. For instance, unpermitted square footage. If you're doing a buyout and you don't have a home inspection and you don't consider those things, by the time the person who kept the home decides to sell, the amount of money they're going to have to spend to rectify a problem that they inherited with the buyout without that consideration can really get large.
Whew, a lot to consider.
There is a lot to consider.
Linda, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
If you or anyone you know is going through a divorce, contact the experts at Linda Craft and Team Realtors to help you consider your options. You can also get details at lindacraft.com and click on the blog post for more details on selling a home in divorce.